Welcome to the regular briefing of the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners, and I will point out that today's briefing is for Thursday, March 18th. And to get this thing started, I'll turn it over to our county manager, Dudley Watts.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon again. So basically, pretty straightforward day. Just we're going to introduce these items for the March 18th meeting. We don't have any discussion items, and we don't have a closed session today, so we should be able to get on through it. I'll go ahead and dive in. The first item is a public hearing by the Board of Commissioners of Forsyth County, North Carolina, regarding the issuance of not to exceed $12 million of Public Finance Authority revenue bonds on behalf of the YMCA of Northwest North Carolina at Series 2021 for the benefit of the Young Men's Christian Association, Northwest North Carolina. You've got an associated resolution approving in principle the issuance of not to exceed $12 million of revenue bonds. And Mary Nash Rusher with McGuire Woods LLP should be on the line, and she's going to review this. Ms. Rusher, are you on the line?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Can you hear me?
You can. Very good. Your volume is great, and so just the only thing I ask is speak slowly so we can follow you since we're since we're virtual.
Yes, sir. And I'll try not to yell.
Okay.
Good afternoon to all of you. This is a process that I believe you have been through before. YMCA has actually purchased the Robin Hood Road Family YMCA using a taxable loan, and they would now like to refinance that on a tax-exempt basis to reduce their interest costs. They are also refinancing a small loan that was used for some improvements to the Jerry Long Y in Clinton. These bonds are being issued to the Public Finance Authority, which is a nationwide issuer. Because of that, it requires an approval in principle of the issuance of the bond from the elected officials of the jurisdiction where the project is located, which is Forsyth County. No county dollars are involved here. No county money will be required for these funds. There is no obligation on the part of the county. This is simply an approval in principle that is required for the terms. I'm happy to answer.
Questions or comments? Part of the comment would be a lot of what she said we didn't hear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Go right ahead, Ted.
So the reason we're asked to do this, state law requires it, but in case of default on these bonds, generally, particularly nonprofits, they run to the constituency where they're located to cover their debt or bankruptcy or whatever takes place. So, but the county, she's correct, the county government is not liable for any of this. And we just do this to have it on record, but I will say, we do hope that they don't default.
Further comments? I would agree with everything you say, though. That's a big deal. Okay, well, Mary Nash Rusher, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'd ask our county attorney, do you have any comments on that, Gordon?
No, I'll just echo what Commissioner Kaplan said. This will not be a liability of the county, but rather this is a step we take to basically verify that the Y is a suitable organization, tax exempt, to be able to use these bonds. And we, as Ms. Rusher said, we have done this before.
Okay.
Okay, very good. All right, second item is a public hearing on the Doral Drive, Reynolda Road Interchange Plan. You've got an associated resolution adopting that plan. And I believe Marco Andretti with City and County Planning is actually on the line. Marco, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Marco.
Can you hear me?
Volume's good. Just speak slowly so we can follow you.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, Board of Commissioners. Let me give you a brief update on the Doral Drive, Reynolda Road Interchange Plan. As you know, we're doing now a series of plans along the Beltway, and we have completed so far one at Reedsville Road, and we're doing the second one, which is before you now, and we are looking into doing the third one sometime this year at New Walkertown Road. So eventually, when we complete all the interchange plans, the ones that you see on the red dots along the path of the Beltway. These plans are intended to be to provide some guidance in terms of design. They're not completed to change the land use. That's already in place through the area plan. So it's more to provide a guidance as to how it should be designed. And there are a number of interchanges with different characters. Some are commercial, some have residential, and this particular one, it's more on the residential side. So looking at the boundaries, those are the two interchanges. We look at land that can potentially be developed. If there are existing subdivisions, if there are historic properties or some other issues, we just didn't include those, and so those are the boundaries of the areas that we looked at. As I said, we're not changing the land use. This is from the area plans. So you can see in yellow, it's single family, and the brown is multifamily. So really the character for these two interchanges is residential. So what we did was to ask the community. We had a really well-attended meeting last year. 150 people came. Of course, a lot of them were concerned about the Beltway, but they provided some input. If these interchanges are to be developed, what would you like to see, considering that they will remain residential? And so they gave us some direction, and our job was to provide a vision, an illustration of how this could be included in the future development. And so basically it's reflecting the existing patterns and having some interconnected streets and preserving areas, wooded areas, bike facilities, and connections to the park. And really a big one was the Mountains to Sea Trail. So we did an illustration showing that, and basically to the north, it's a larger portion of the subdivision, or a regular subdivision, and then a smaller one to the south. And then where the topography is a little tricky, and we have that trail connecting the Mountains to Sea Trail to Long Creek Park. And so we presented that. We received some good comments. The biggest concerns from the community were in terms of connectivity. There is a potential development approved, Long Creek Village, Phase 2, and so how a connection from that development to access the Northern Beltway can be made. It is challenging, and so we had a lot of discussions about that. We presented it to the city, and the city potentially is going to be looking at studying what can be done in situations like this, because as more development happens in the community and we don't cross some of the creeks, people have to go long distances because of the lack of connectivity. And the second issue was the noise walls, but that's something that the North Carolina Department of Transportation will be dealing with at the right time. And then for the Reynolda Road, we look at three areas. One, multifamily. It's already, an area that is proposed for multifamily land use. Small area for single family, and then an industrial area. And so we did the same thing. We asked the community if this is developed, what would you like to see? And so a mixture of apartments, townhouses, maybe cluster homes, and just a development that is not too dense and is not visible from Reynolda Road. So we did the same thing. We provided a vision, a potential, an idea of how it could be developed, what kind of elements will be important, access, having open space along the areas that are difficult to develop, trails connecting, buffers, having townhouses closer to residential development, and then a little more higher density towards the middle of the development. So we presented that. There were not many issues regarding this. We also show an extension of an existing subdivision to the north. There's already a stub street, so it will be extending that. And so we presented that. Well, one of the biggest areas the community wanted us to look into is this property where 66 Motors used to be. It's for sale, and they had some really big aspirations for the redevelopment of that, for some medical or higher education or community college campus office. And so we look at that and hoping to provide some guidance, but unfortunately there is no sewer, and a lot of those things cannot happen until you have sewer. So it is located in the future growth area. The sewer ends at an existing development on Reynolda Road, so we really didn't want to provide a vision until a more comprehensive development of the area that includes the extension of sewer lines. It's completed. So unfortunately, we couldn't provide a vision for them. So the City County Planning Board held a public hearing on the plan last November. They recommended adoption of the plan, and then the City Council held a public hearing in February of this year, and they recommended adoption of the plan. And so the next step would be to have a public hearing before the Board of County Commissioners.
Questions or
With
comments?
that, I'd be happy to, yes.
Okay, Mark, any questions for Marco?
Please, I do.
Yes, ma'am.
On the portion of the slides that's more in the Tobaccoville area, do you have input from the Tobaccoville Council on this plan?
No, we didn't, because we didn't include their, the grayish area is the one that is in the Tobaccoville. So the section that is more impacted in the study, it's actually for the right of way of the Beltway. So we just stay within the unincorporated areas of Forsyth County and the city.
Additional questions?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
I noticed you said you had community meetings, but I didn't see any comments from the community. Could you share with us any concerns they may have had?
The kickoff meeting, which the one that I was referring to in terms of the number of people, that's where we got all the basic information, which for the raw drive was to continue with the existing patterns for new development, kind of reflecting what's out there. And then they gave us the input on the multifamily as to what kind of development they would like to see there. So with that, we work on the plan and really wanted to have a meeting, but we just couldn't have it, and so we had 2 virtual meetings, and the comments we got were more along the lines of, can you do that connection? We want to have a connection between, what I described, this potential development and phase 2 of Long Creek Village. That was a main point. There were comments about the multifamily, that it was fine. And then the noise walls were the other issue that was brought up at the virtual meetings.
Additional questions?
Chairman, yes. Could you, with the arrow on this particular slide, show me where the school is, the elementary school, Old Town Elementary School is located?
It is off the map.
Oh, it's off the map. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it is somewhere over here.
Okay. That's helpful for me. Thank you.
I'm going to infer from Commissioner Wisenhunt's question that you want us to reach out to Tobaccoville to just make sure they're aware of this plan.
It would be helpful to me if it would to other commissioners, but I'd like to have their input.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. That's, Tobaccoville, that gray area is a unusual, big ink blot, and I agree they should at least take a look at it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
I'll reach out to Dan Corder and Marco. You might need to run up there just to make them aware of it. I presume that some of the participants were probably Tobaccoville residents, so I think, but what I'm inferring is that you want the council to make sure they're aware of it.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Yes, yes, we will definitely do that, yes.
Okay, thank you, Marco, good job.
Yeah, you're very welcome, thank you.
All right, very good, thank you. Agenda item 3 is a resolution requesting abandonment of a portion of Pack Drive from North Carolina state-maintained secondary road system. And David Reed's going to review that. And David, while you're at it, go ahead and review item 4, which is the same issue for a portion of Bowman Road. So David Reed should be online. Are you there, David?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yeah, your volume's not great, so just make sure you speak up.
Okay. And I'm trying to share screen here. My iPad is spinning at the moment.
We can tell. We see it.
And but what I'm going to present is a aerial photograph of Pack Drive, where you see the section that is proposed for abandonment. And I know that the graphics were included in your packets. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at them, or if you have the graphics in front of you. But I can go ahead and start talking about the item while we see if the screen will load. This is a
Tell you what to
resolution
do,
request.
David, let me interrupt you. Why don't we, if it's satisfactory to the board, we'll get the technology right, and then next Thursday we can just brief it. Okay?
That'd be fine.
Yeah, I mean, if that's satisfactory with the board, most of these are fairly straightforward. And we'll just plan on briefing this in detail next Thursday, and that'll give us a chance, because it looks like your little screen thing's going to spin around a little bit. So
Right.
we'll work on it for next Thursday.
Mr. Manager,
All right, thank you.
we have Randall Ogburn from DOT on the line, if he has any comments.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and on either one of these, Randall, do you have any comments just to add to the to offer today?
Mr. Ogburn, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute.
Sorry, basically, I'm on today, and I'm paying sensors.
Mr. Ogburn,
Yes.
can you cut your computer volume down, because we're getting a lot of feedback?
And I think it's just going to be an echo.
Okay, how is that?
If we still have an echo. Any chance you can be with us next Thursday, Mr. Ogburn?
Yes, that's fine.
Okay, well, let's plan on, we'll do a full briefing on this next Thursday, and we'll make sure we get our technology squared away. Thank you. All right, agenda item 5, you've got approval of the minutes of the meetings in the public session in item 6. Item 7 is an amendment to the FY 2021 Capital Reserve Fund. It appropriates refunding bond proceeds for future debt service costs related to the 2021 C general obligation bond refunding issue. And Lee Plunkett's going to review that. And go ahead and review item 8 while you're at it, Lee, as well, which is, I think, the same type of issue for the general obligation refunding bond. Lee, are you on the line?
I am here. Thank you.
All right, very good, thank you.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have a few more items in front of you today regarding the upcoming general obligation bond sale. And this first item, item 7, is an amendment to the Capital Reserve Fund, and it's to allow any additional proceeds we may receive from the sale of the 2021 C refunding bonds to be placed in reserve for future debt service. The additional proceeds are really just a function of the way bonds are sold, particularly because the county's bonds are highly rated, so investors are willing to pay a premium to purchase them. The amendment is for $200,000, but we expect it to be much less as we get the deal as close to as much as we need as possible. Any questions on that item?
Questions? Ted Kaplan says we're good.
All right. Moving on to item 8. This item allows us to accept the proceeds from the sale of the 2021 C refunding bonds and then to pay the bondholders of the 2004A, 2004B, and 2007B variable rate bonds. So essentially, we're the pass-through for the $22,550,000 to legally pay off the variable rate bonds. Any questions?
Questions, comments?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Are we paying them off early or are we on schedule?
It's not considered an advance refunding. Those aren't allowed for us anymore. It's like a current refunding, so as soon as we receive the funds, we'll be able to pay off the bonds immediately.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Additional questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.
Agenda item 9 is an amendment to the 2020-2021 budget ordinance that appropriates grant funds from the North Carolina Land and Water Fund to acquire property for the Blues Lake property. Christopher Ong will review this. Christopher, are you on the line?
I'm here. Is the volume okay?
It is. Good. Thank you, Christopher.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good afternoon. At the regular business meeting held December 5th, 2019, the board authorized county staff by way of resolution to submit an application to the North Carolina Clean Water Management Trust Fund, which is now the North Carolina Land and Water Trust Fund, to submit an application and to accept if awarded a grant in the amount of $640,000 to acquire approximately 216 acres of real property, Blues Lake, from Duke Energy Carolinas for a future park. So the grant award of $640,000 for North Carolina Land and Water Fund Project number 2020-026 is to be used to fulfill due diligence, land acquisition, and record a declaration of covenants and restrictions on the property in creating a regional park. So the action that's before you for consideration today is to appropriate the land and water budget for the land acquisition piece of this project in the Parks and Recreation 2021 operating budget based on the $640,000 award. The acquisition cost will be out of pocket, so to speak, and then requisition submitted for reimbursement to North Carolina Land and Water Trust Fund to the grant award. And the reason for this, Parks believes that closeout can be done before June 30th, which is why we're appropriating this project into their operating budget. And I'll be happy to try to answer any questions.
Comments or questions? Not a one.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. And I'll just add one comment. There is a lot of interest in that park. As y'all know, we submitted a list of projects for some state funding, and this was one of them. And I think we had $3 million in really for the second phase of that park. And so a bill was filed either yesterday or the day before and has really good, strong sponsorship from, because that portion of Forsyth County is adjacent to Guilford, Rockingham, and Stokes. There's really just a lot of interest in that as a regional type project. And so anyway, there's some statewide interest in it as well. So we'll get that project moving. And thank y'all for this whole process. This has been terrific. Item 10 is a resolution authorizing the execution of an amendment to an agreement between Forsyth County and the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Board of Education for the provision of school resource officer services. You got an associated budget ordinance amendment, and Janice Hillenbrand should be on the line to review this. Janice, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Very good. All right, just speak. Your volume is great. Just speak slowly so we can follow.
All right, perfect. Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. This item is a resolution and budget ordinance to amend the current SRO contract with the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School Board to add 13 non-supervisory deputy positions for the last 15 weeks of the fiscal year. The addition of these positions is necessary due to the City of Winston-Salem ending their contract to provide SRO services in June of 2020. Due to this, the Sheriff's Office will be fully taking on an additional 11 schools starting July 1st. These positions are being added to the SRO contract in advance of July 1st to give the Sheriff's Office time to hire and train these positions before the FY 2021-2022 school year begins. The amount of this contract amendment is $358,145. At their February 23rd meeting, the Board of Education voted to both approve and fund this contract amendment, and I am happy to answer any additional questions that you may have.
Questions or comments?
I was just going to make one clarification. Janice, essentially what this does is this lets us reflect in the budget ordinance those positions, but in the expenditure side of our budget will go up, but the school board is funding this out of their current dollars. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep. So there's no new appropriation to the schools for this purpose, and which is really a function of the fact that they've not utilized all their SRO dollars in the year they're in, just because schools the classroom setup has been modified. So does that sound right, Janice?
That sounds correct.
All right, very good. Any other questions for Janice?
Not for her, but I have some comments to make, and I'll make more the next time we hear this. But I am still unsure about this SRO program and still have concerns about it. I would hope that maybe at some point we could see what other school systems have done or are doing, but it's a program I'd love to see disappear, mainly because of the reasons for it. I hope that disappears as well, but I just think it's a program who's our good old assistant principals. I assume Dr. Martin used to have this role and would hope that they would get it again, so.
Okay.
A topic for another day, yes.
Mr. Manager?
Very good. Agenda item 11 is a resolution authorizing submission of an application to the NC Impact Initiative at the UNC School of Government to apply for and accept if awarded a grant for the My Future NC network of local educational attainment collaboratives program. There's a lot of words there. Taylor Hutchins with Community and Economic Development will review this. Taylor, are you on the line?
Yeah, I am. Can you guys hear me all right?
We can. Thank you.
Okay. Ashley, can I share my screen, or can you pull up the slides?
You can share your screen, or I'm happy to pull up your slides, either one.
Are you guys able to see my screen?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this opportunity came about very recently, last week, and we're in the process still of bringing together all of our partners from the school system and the community college, the city, the Regional Workforce Development Board. But as we're starting to look at the application, we wanted to bring it to you guys' attention as quickly as possible. So this is the Local Education Attainment Collaborative. It is a program in partnership with My Future NC, the John Belk Endowment, and then the UNC School of Government. So as just a brief overview, they're looking at having 10 communities across the state participate in a 2-year pilot program that will aim to increase the successful completion of post-secondary credentials of value. So we would be applying for this, in a sense, to be part of this planning grant, where we would work with partners across the state and at the different capacity levels to see how we can increase that educational attainment. So these selected communities will serve as leaders for implementing strategies and practices that are beneficial statewide. Some of the program basics is that it will have a deep local impact by increasing effectiveness of connections between our different educational institutions, our employers, and our local governments. It'll build capacity by using current assets in the community, as well as delivering model policies that inform the broader statewide landscape. And then it'll also leverage resources, including state and federal and local foundation funding as well, moving forward. Some of the benefits, if our community is selected for this program, we would receive valuable resources that respond to learning loss during the pandemic that we've recently faced. We'd receive technical assistance from the NC Impact Initiative and My Future NC staff, as well as the staff from the School of Government. We would have peer support through the different networks of other communities throughout this program to really focus in on developing those goals and implementation and then collaboration. And then lastly, there is financial support that can compensate the implementation once we've developed that action plan further. For the team formation, I think Forsyth County is, our community is set up well for this application and for this program. The Forsyth Workforce Coalition that I've presented to you guys on before is made up of Forsyth County, our community college, Greater Winston-Salem, Inc., the city, the Workforce Development Board, the school system, and our Winston-Salem Foundation. We have all been working together since August 2019, really. We started that partnership to create uniform workforce metrics, coordinated business outreach, aligned goals, really shared an emphasis on our economic development and then an emphasis on equity as well. So this group is already formed, and so I think that makes us prepared well for programs such as the local Education Attainment Collaborative. Commitments that would be made throughout this program, we would meet monthly over the course of the program to develop and implement that clear strategy for educational attainment. We would be leveraging our existing assets in the community. The goal that the state would like us to see is to increase the community's educational attainment by 3% based on this strategy, and then also improving our equity in our educational attainment. All of this would then kind of fall back into the state's legislative goal of 2 million individuals possessing a high-quality credential by 2030. The NC Impact Initiative gave some samples of different collaboratives and different opportunities to kind of base our strategy off of. So I have a couple of those I wanted to share with you guys just to give you an idea of what could possibly come from this project. The first is Edgecombe and Nash County. They have done a marketing and awareness effort to ensure exposure and preparedness for jobs in their community. Wake County has done Project Secure, which is an effort to train and upskill individuals for IT jobs across several industries. Some additional ones, the City of Charlotte did a micro-grant program to help individuals graduate in their last year or so from undergraduate degrees. Alamance County has done a 4-year apprenticeship program in advanced manufacturing. And then the last one I have as an example that they provided was a 12-county effort for youth engagement for the STEM fields, so science, technology, engineering, and math. So that's kind of a brief overview. Our intention is next week we have a meeting with the NC Impact staff as well as our different partners on Monday to kind of do a brainstorming session to really hone in on where the direction we'll want to be applying with to go to make sure that we can reach that educational attainment and that we have the best application moving forward. So at this time, if you guys have any questions.
Questions or comments?
Just one question, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, sir.
Taylor, are any of the fund sources coming from PTRC Workforce Department?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Are any of the funding sources for this program coming from PTRC Workforce Development Department?
No, so this funding is coming from the School of Government and from the My Future NC, but the Workforce Development Board at PTRC is one of our main partners, and so they'll be partnering with us as we put in this application.
Okay.
Were they on that little chart with the organizations in your PowerPoint? I was kind of counting agencies. Were they listed there?
Yes, yes, they are.
All right, oh, they were. I'm
Yes,
sorry, because I couldn't read them all. Okay, got it.
Okay, thank you, Janice.
I just want to say thanks. I think it's a good initiative. I'm a little disappointed it's only $25,000. Right.
Which brings me to this point. Is the county obligated to fund this project if the funds are short, if the $25,000 isn't enough?
So I believe when it comes to funding, we'll be able to leverage other sources. That is my hope moving forward with this.
Would you have some idea of what those other sources are by next week?
Yes. I will hopefully have some more information for you next week.
Very good. Any other questions? All right, thank you, Taylor. Item 12 is a resolution authorizing execution of an engagement letter between Forsyth County and Parker Poe, Adams, and Bernstein for the additional bond counsel services related to the refunding bonds. Lee Plunkett should be on the line.
Good afternoon again, Board. This resolution authorizes the execution of an engagement letter with our bond counsel, Parker Poe, to provide their services for the refunding bond portion of our upcoming sale. When we initially engaged Parker Poe, the scope of services only included the new money bonds, so the bonds that were approved during the 2016 referendum and our 2/3 capital maintenance bonds. But after working through our options with bond counsel and our financial advisor, we discovered the opportunity to refund our variable rate debt, thus adding to the scope of services that we require. The amount of these services is $15,000, and it is in line with their RFP cost structure they submitted to us during that process. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions or comments? Not a one.
Thank you, Lee. Agenda item 13 is a resolution authorizing execution of an agreement between Forsyth County and the Resource Company Incorporated to provide temporary employment services for non-clinical COVID-19 vaccination and response at the Department of Public Health. Adam Pendlebury with Public Health will review this. Adam, are you there?
Good afternoon. Can you hear me, County Manager?
Yep, we can hear you. Just speak loudly and slowly.
Sure thing. Good afternoon, Commissioners. The item before you is a resolution to execute an agreement between the Resource Company and the Department of Public Health in the amount of $175,000. This will be for staffing at the COVID-19 vaccine call center, along with doing some data management related to that. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Questions or comments? Not a one.
Well, I do have one. I'm just
okay.
looking at this attachment. Was this like a request for proposals to look at that, or is this just a single, it looks like just a contract with whatever it is, Resource, whatever it is? I mean, were the temporary services bid? I guess is what I'm trying to get at.
We did bid out our temporary services earlier this year, and that 30% markup that you see from the Resource Company is the lowest we got. We did receive one from them when we did our first round, and it was higher. The second round, it was lower this time around.
I'm actually sorry, I didn't really hear that or understand it.
I know they did bid it earlier in the year. They went out to several temporary agencies. One they use is the Clark Group. I know for non-clinical staff, they sometimes have had some challenges filling all of the positions that we need. So this would also provide them with a second option to fill all of our vacancies.
Okay.
Okay.
Very good. Agenda item 14.
That's correct.
Is that right? Yes. Agenda item 14 is a resolution authorizing execution of an interlocal agreement between Forsyth County and the Winston and Forsyth County Board of Education for use of county-owned fuel pumps at the Liberty Street facility. Kirby Robinson should be on the line. Kirby, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you. And good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Board. As background on this item, the board previously approved the sale of the Lansing Drive property. And as part of that sale, the school system will obviously no longer be able to use the fuel pumps that are on that property. The school system currently fuels their maintenance trucks and other fleet vehicles at the Lansing property. The buses are fueled elsewhere. So in total, we're talking about around 200 vehicles. We've worked with Darrell Walker to come up with some alternate ways to fuel the school system fleet, and they have chosen to distribute some fuel cards throughout their fleet, but are also requesting the board's permission to use the county's fuel pumps located at the Linville Complex on North Liberty Street. The proposed interlocal agreement is for the use of these pumps is for a term of 5 years. It requires the school system to reimburse the county for its monthly fuel costs, plus a 2% overhead charge. The overhead charge will reimburse the county for a portion of our costs related to wear and tear on the fuel pumps, fuel management, underground storage tank maintenance, and that is an acceptable rate to the school system. So our fleet division feels confident they can handle the increased traffic at the Linville complex, and that our buying power will be a benefit to the school system with respect to the cost of fuel. And so in summary, we're excited to find a mutually acceptable fueling solution for the schools that does not dramatically impact or alter their current operations. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions the board has.
Questions or comments?
I got a question. Did the school district agree to this 2% surcharge, overhead charge? Did they agree to that?
Yes, sir. So the school system right now has costs in maintaining their fuel pumps at the Lansing property. And so what this charge does is simply move the funds they're already expending in that respect to reimburse the county for our similar costs.
I think it's a really good deal when you factor in not only the cost of operating a fuel pump, but the liability and all of that. It just full disclosure, when Kirby went and had the first meeting with the schools, because we always try to recover as much cost as we can. It became very apparent that those are costs that are locally funded anyway, and so the last thing we wanted to do was create any kind of incentive where the school wouldn't want to work with us. We were not really looking at it from that perspective, and so I think this solution with a very small percentage cost of what that is actually saves them money, and is an incentive to continue doing this, because anything else they would do would be a lot more. And it's really not that much money when you start thinking about what it costs to run a fuel pump. And so
it's about $6,000 is what we're projecting a year.
Yeah, and you
I'm good.
you never that'll be the right incentive we want, which is for them to continue along this arrangement. Because and I appreciate Kirby was the one who was very sensitive to the acknowledgement that all of this is paid locally anyway, and so why chase the money around to do that? So what were the two costs that you had actually cut out that we originally started with?
Yes, sir. So we originally started with a pro rata share of any capital expenditures that would go into the facility. We to the manager's point, realize those are all local dollars, so there's no liability for the school system for any capital expenditures. So the 2% charge really goes into the fees that the state charges for having a UST in the ground. There's some software that tracks the amount of fuel we dispense from the pumps, and then we have a contract with an environmental company that helps us maintain those tanks. So that's it's about a break even for the school system right now based on their current costs.
I'm good. Thanks for that explanation. I apologize for my initial reaction, which was not
yes, sir.
Valid initial reaction, because the last thing we wanted to do, and we were almost heading in that direction, is because you say, well, we got this asset, we need to cover our costs. Well, their costs are our cost, and so why do that? So,
Commissioner Kaplan?
Yeah, Mr. Manager, one of the things I would love for us to figure out someday is when the school system spends money, is it our money, by county money, is it state money, is it federal money? Where is this 2% coming from? Is it county funds?
well, under the formula, it's just whatever. It's probably a combination of I almost looked at Commissioner Martin.
I'd say this is clearly local because of the local equipment and local vehicles. If they were transportation vehicles, it'd be a different story.
Yeah, there might be a little bit of federal like food service money to the extent that
maybe.
We're not paying ourselves.
Yeah, I think what the 2% does is really remind everybody that that there's some safety issues that have to occur when you're pumping fuel, and there's some liability issues that have to occur. And
are you assuming the people doing the pumping understand that when the 2%?
No, but I hope that the risk management people at the school system are
the
reminding
people pumping the fuel won't know it.
Yeah, that's true.
The people writing the checks.
Just asking.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I have one question, please.
Yes, sir.
Kirby, was there any discussion of where these school buses will be parked for the next 5 years?
The buses are a little separate from the fueling issue. They are, as you know, parked as you point out, at the Lansing property now. Once we close on that property, we'll get a 60-day notice to relocate those buses, and Daryl's already working on that now. I think they do have some satellite locations identified, I apologize, I don't know specifically where those are, but I know they have a plan and are prepared to move those once we sort of get in the straight and narrow of closing on this property.
Okay.
It'd be great to get Daryl to come in, when we get closer, for Daryl to come in and share that.
Yes, sir.
And just a reminder, the board's appropriated some dollars from the Lansing sale for the purpose of helping them figure all that out. So,
Question, Mr. Chairman.
Right ahead, Mr. Linder.
Kirby, I thought you mentioned it, might give the county more buying power, that's probably right, I'm sure you researched it. Would we be able to, the county, it's purchasing its own fuels now, if we get this worked out with the school system, would the county be able to purchase off of state contracts? How would that work? I imagine that the state buys fuel cheaper than individual counties can, so I'm just wondering how that would work.
That's a great question, Commissioner, and I appreciate it. Right now, our purchasing department bids fuel each day. And they did that as a combination of county fuel and of city fuel. So we're actually be adding the school system along with us in the city, and we're increasing that monthly unleaded volume by about 14,000 gallons. And that's actually about what we run through our pumps there from a bulk capacity. A lot of our sort of what they refer to as a white vehicle fleet, a normal fleet car, is fueled using a WEX card, a fuel card at a regular commercial pump. But I think we do have the option to buy off a state contract. You have to meet a certain gallon threshold to be able to do that, and there are price differences between those things. Our purchasing folks are actually working on that now and seeing how that affects potentially how they bid those costs. So they're in that process right now, but they do feel confident that, of course, with the economies of scale, that will help us in the pricing pool.
What's the storage capacity of those storage tanks?
We have two unleaded tanks in the ground now, 12,000 gallons each.
Okay.
So how often are you getting fuel delivered now?
Right now, we're delivering about once a month. We do keep a reserve in those tanks. It's my understanding we'll go, twice a month, and we'll sort of see how that goes. These projections are based on sort of what the school system's thinking right now. They're obviously a little subject to change. So once we sort of get into it, we'll have a better understanding of what that consumption looks like. But right now, we're thinking twice a month we'll get a refuel.
Good job, Kirby.
Yep, thanks.
Thank you, sir.
thank you, Kirby. All right, item 15 is also a property matter, and you've heard it a couple of times. We've pushed it off to this agenda. It's a resolution authorizing the acceptance of 4 easements from the city of Winston-Salem related to the construction and operation of the new Forsyth County Courthouse located on Chestnut Street. Chelsea, if you will, review this, and I think the real question is, we had to push it off, so sort of explain that, and I'll turn it over to you. Chelsea, you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
All right.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. As the County Manager stated, this item is to authorize the acceptance of 4 easements from the City of Winston-Salem, and these are to construct and operate the new courthouse facility, which will be next door. And again, this is for the tunnel access that will connect the detention center to the new courthouse, foundation and shoring of the new courthouse, a parking area and driveway along the back side of the courthouse, as well as this would accept a temporary construction easement, and we, the county, would assume all of the maintenance to the permanent easement areas. And this just really allows us to continue on with the plans as we have. And as the county manager stated, this has been pushed off. We're really at the county attorney's urging, just so that we can get a firm and finalized document before you, so you all can see the final document of what you would be accepting. So I'm happy to try and answer any questions that you may have.
Questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Gordon, do you have anything?
Thank you.
I was just going to say, I appreciate Chelsea's work on this and Fred Johnson in my office. We didn't receive the drawings for these until a couple of weeks ago, and so we've, particularly Fred's, really been scrambling to get those done, and he's working with the folks at the city. So they just were not finalized by today. And so the city council is scheduled to vote on this March 22nd, so pushing this off to the 18th for us won't slow down the project at all.
All right. Agenda item 16 is a hearing on a request for the refund of excise tax overpayment upon the recommendation of the county review officer. And so you also have the resolution that would authorize that. Timothy Williams with the Register of Deeds office should be on the line. Timothy, are you there? Mr. Williams, are you on the line?
Mr. Williams, your microphone is on mute.
Thank you, Ashley. So, Mr. County Manager, do you know enough about it to do it?
I wouldn't touch it with a 10-foot pole, so I think what we'll do is we'll get Mr. Williams. We're going to be able to get him? If not, we can push it off till next
Mr. Manager, I can tell you the basic facts if you want to know. Basically, property tax, the deed was filed in Forsyth County when it should have been filed in Davidson County. And so this is a request for the refund of that money.
You mean Davidson wouldn't just automatically send it back to us because we're their neighbor?
Well, I think we got the money and they want it. So. No, actually, we're refunding the money to the person who filed it. It's been refiled.
Oh, I
the
see.
deed has been refiled
Good.
in Davidson County.
We're the good guys.
Or you can be, that's right. All right, very good. We'll see if Timothy has anything to add to that.
Tell Timothy he did a good job.
Yeah, I think our attorney did. Agenda item 17 are appointments, and you have a number of appointments there, and those will close probably
They close on March 10th, which is Wednesday.
next Wednesday. Okay, so if you know folks who are interested in serving their community in any of those capacities, let them know, and they can apply. And Mr. Chairman, with that, that is all we have for this March 18th meeting and the
I
briefing
want to
today.
thank you and thank Gordon and thank Ashley and thank our deputy county manager who's sitting there very quietly. Oh, there goes the microphone. But y'all have done a really good job. Appreciate y'all helping us today. Anybody have any comments, closing comments, words of wisdom to live forever? Over the next 10 minutes? See you next week. All right, Mr. Kaplan? Move to adjourn, I'll second it. We're adjourned.